The year is 1980. You and your pal Bucky are leaving the movie theater after watching the hit new movie, Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. With a handful of nickels and the rest of the Saturday, the two of you are drawn to the hippest place for kids your age, a newfangled place called the arcade. Surrounded by a slew of electronic static and carpets that litter roller rinks to this day, you see something, or someone, out of the corner of your eye. Who is this creature before your eyes? Why are you drawn to him over the spectacle of boxes around him like space invaders or asteroids? What is it about this little yellow booger and his friend that makes you fall in love with him, no questions asked? This, my friend, is the original, the grandfather of them all, the very beginning of what is known as the Scrimblo Bimblo. Before we go and explain what a Scrimblo Bimblo is, a few details I should note about this video. There is no official guide or definition to what a Scrimblo Bimblo exactly is. With that, this video may have opinions that contradict your own. If you happen to disagree with my reasoning or my mad ramblings, feel free to tell me below. I always look to further educate myself in these kinds of things. Obviously, I'm gonna miss some characters that fall under this definition. To make this easier for both your sake and mine, I'm only going to be talking about main characters that were created for gaming originally. For those that were patiently waiting for me to talk about Cool Spot on the SNES or the likes of SpongeBob, I apologize. With all that said, we're going to be delving into what a Scrimblo Bimblo is, the different eras and what that meant for them design-wise, along with other details around them. With that out of the way, let's start at the first Scrimblo Bimblo era, that being Wait, Pac-Man came out in 1980. What took gaming so long to get a Scrimblo Bimblo? Well, there are three key factors to answering that question: location, unfamiliarity, and limitations. For most of this time period, arcades weren't actually a big place for people to hang out at, and that went for the machines as well. A majority of them actually resided in bars, a perfect example being the original 1972 Pong machine being placed in a tavern in Sunnydale, California. It would stay like that until 1977, when Charles Entertainment Cheese came into the picture, paving the way for kids to have access to a wide variety of game cabinets, eventually making way for arcades. Limitations and unfamiliarity can be bunched together for this era. Arcades and gaming were both new, and with the sudden shift from dive bars to ball pits, a lot of companies had their art directions for games tailored more to something adult than it would be over kids. Factor that with this, companies needed to make a selling point besides the riveting gameplay people wouldn't get most of the time. Also, side note, there were home consoles at this time, but the Odyssey system decided to go for a very simplistic and sleek approach for its art direction, resulting in no real characters per se. Atari was also around in 1977, but they took after arcade machines at that time, going for the more detailed designs or recreating screenshots from the games even. Back to Pac-Man though. Apart from being one of the best built games of all time, designs were also a huge factor for why it became so successful. The bright yellow of both the cabinet and the character standing out like a sore thumb to cabinets around it, that smug face he has with those big old eyes, this helps lay down the groundwork for what we can describe as a Scrimblo Bimblo at this time frame. Vibrant colors to make them stand out, simplistic designs in contrast to those around it, designs you could see kids having plushies of or drawing, facial features close together, exaggerated proportions such as eyes and feet for Pac-Man's instance, and a secret weapon that persists through every Scrimblo Bimblo ever made. Head empty, our hearts full. Basically the exact opposite of its competition at this time. A good example of this type of style can be seen in the work of the United Productions of America, otherwise known as the UPA. In an age of increasing quality and realism, the UPA had their own signature style, that being simplified forms of characters, vibrant colors, and exaggerated proportions. Sound familiar? After Pac-Man took the world by storm, other companies were able to quickly follow suit after, giving us even more characters to strengthen our definition. In 1982 alone, we got such classics as Donkey Kong Jr., Q*bert, Dig Dug, Mappy, and Pango. He's real. Look him up, why don't you? Anyways, things were starting to shape up for the industry. Gaming was starting to take a hold of the youth, and companies recognized that with developing characters that appealed to them more. Make no mistake, it was laying groundwork for what was coming around the bend and into our homes. Moving further into the 1980s, we're coming across more and more households with home consoles, that being from the head honchos of Atari, Nintendo, or Sega, or some of the underdogs of the time like Hudson Soft or SNK. With more games needing to be made thanks to cartridges, it meant more eventual mascots, leading to a much wider plethora than the arcade era. Don't let that fool you though. While more cartoonish mascots were made at the time, there are two new factors that come into play now on deeming them Scrimblo Bimblo: overseas rebranding and Ratitude. Let's first talk about localization rebranding. One of the best examples we can use here is our good pal Bonk. Take a look at his Japanese box art. Little dude, exaggerated proportions, colorful, and something a kid would probably have as a plush. Now then, let's look at the American version. There's definitely some room for improvement. There we go. Another great example in the localization is our good pal Sonic the Hedgehog, giving us two character designs: little baby boy and a smug kid who thinks he's so cool since his parents let him play hooky. Both great designs, but different directions for the same character, leaving us with Sonic counting both as a Scrimblo Bimblo and a Ratitude design. Going more into Ratitude, we have some mascots during this time who were trying way too hard to be considered cool. A sort of forced atmosphere with them, often coming with a catchphrase and getting up in your face. Some of the more blatant examples in this time period are through the likes of Bubsy the Bobcat, Wild Woody, and Booger Man, with a wide variety of others that I don't even have enough time to mention. With the do's and don'ts, we're able to define what being a Scrimblo Bimblo from this era meant. Still colorful, facial expressions are smushed together even further, slightly broader design scopes thanks to less console limitations than that of the arcade, keeping the exaggerated proportions, and that secret weapon still. Head empty, heart full. At the end of the day, a Scrimblo Bimblo is someone you look at and immediately just think, little creature. From this era, the most prominent Scrimblo Bimblos were in the form of Bomberman, Sonic the Hedgehog, kinda, OG Yoshi, OG Wario, Bubble Bobble, Bonk, Kirby, Master Higgins, and they don't fit the term to a T, but I'm gonna go ahead and put in all the Donkey Kong Country characters. I mean, look at them. Going into the style that the Scrimblo Bimblos were based off for the Bit Wars, they can be credited to a few popular pieces of media at that time, typically coming from Japan in the form of animated productions over there, certain artist style, and a handful of Western cartoons as well. Naoto Ushima has gone on record saying that Sonic was designed with Felix the Cat, Mickey Mouse, Michael Jackson, and Santa Claus, resulting in that skew of Scrimblo and Ratitude I talked about before. Other medias with similarities to Scrimblos in this era includes the likes of Doraemon, Dragon Ball, and a wide variety of shows produced over at Hanna-Barbera, a studio mainly comprised of former UPA members. They were also responsible for animating the Pac-Man show in 1982. Circle of Life! All things said and done, we got some great Scrimblo Bimblos this time around. Surely whatever comes next can't be... This is it. We've reached it. The Holy Land. Pure Scrimblo Bimblo reside here. Why, you may ask? Well, allow me to introduce to you, in my opinion, the Holy Trinity. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, who perfected the term for years to come. Banjo-Kazooie, Crash Bandicoot, and Rayman. Let's go over our key points for what makes a Scrimblo Bimblo again. Colorful? Check. Facial features close together? I would think so. Exaggerated features such as limbs and noses? All three clear that no problem. Finally, head empty and hearts full? You better believe it. With the age of Ratitude dying down at this point, a lot of new IPs would go for the more cute and colorful approach, leading to a wider variety to come from this. Apart from that, we have the transition to 3D, resulting in even more hardware limitations, this time for modeling character designs. This would lead to stubbier characters and more exaggerated facial features due to character animation becoming a staple for the industry. This simple thing led to characters being able to convey to the player how they act, as opposed to before with most personalities being headcanon. Except mine. I know for a fact Mario would be my friend, and if you tell me otherwise, I'm gonna— Another fact for why Scrimblo Bimblos were really hitting off at this era was the 3D platformer really coming into effect. At this point, most companies realized that kids didn't want to play as Dylan from accounting. They wanted someone they will enjoy looking at for hours and hours, all while having a fun and wacky world to go with. Hunting for monkeys in primordial times? Why not? A rejected Looney Tunes character getting blown up by a box of TNT, only for his shoes to be left behind? Go for it. How about a crocodile going on a quest to save the Gabbos? You do you, pal. With so many companies at war with each other, it was idea after idea after idea of these insanely zany ideas, and by God, they worked. This led to so many iconic platforming mascots at the time, like the Nintendo 64 era Mario, Crash Bandicoot, Banjo-Kazooie, Rayman, Croc, Conker, the DK Crew, Ape Escape, Klonoa, and Voodoo Vince. Along with that, we had plenty of Scrimblo Bimblos elsewhere, such as Snowboard Kids, Monkey Ball, Vib Ribbon, and Chunky Pikachu, may he rest in peace. For this golden era, there were really two big contributors for this push in stylization, that being Tex Avery and Chuck Jones, both legendary animators and directors for Warner Bros., responsible for some of the most timeless cartoons in history, most of which being Looney Tunes. With eyes pushed together to drive expression and more exaggerated proportions give 2D animation more weight with its slapstick, it made perfect sense for gaming mascots to follow suit, trying to capture the chaotic energy of what kids loved to watch at the time. And before you ask, Tex Avery did work at Hanna-Barbera, which was formerly UPA people. Funny how that works, isn't it? With all that said, I can't wait to see what the future of gaming holds for us next. Well, it was fun while it lasted. With the new wave of consoles consisting of the PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, and the Xbox 360, the shackles were more or less finally taken off of console limitations when it came to an art style. In theory, it could mean way more Scrimblo Bimblos in this area. People were able to freely make whatever kind of world they want, but you already know where I'm going with this. Realism was the name of the game now for most companies, opting to put platformers off to the side in favor of zombies, shooters, zombie shooters, and let's not forget, Peggle. Unfortunately, even the Scrimblo Bimblos that we had went into the vault due to this. The market just wasn't there in most companies' eyes. So what Scrimblo Bimblos did we get? Well, with the three titans in the industry, Sony was really the only one to pull through, giving us Sackboy and Little Big Planet. Nintendo, we technically could count the likes of Pyoro, hacker bird extraordinaire, yet he originally started as a WarioWare character before having his own games sold separately, so it's a bit of a gray line. Ubisoft gave us Rabbids. I don't really know what to tell you guys. Console Scrimblos were rare this era. Looking away from game consoles though, there was a steady source of them on the World Wide Web, that being in the form of Newgrounds. With a slogan like everything by everyone, there's bound to be some Scrimblo Bimblos in there. Some of the more prominent ones from this era was Binding of Isaac, Super Meat Boy, and Alien Hominid, all incredibly successful that they would eventually end up on home consoles, showing companies that people still yearn for the more creative art styles. With all the Scrimblo Bimblos drastically varying at this point, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the kind of style that can be based on here. With most home consoles, there was little for us to have a unifying trait. For Newgrounds, Edmund McMillan was responsible for the art style of both Meat Boy and Isaac, with a pretty comparable style to that of Invader Zim, trying to combine a cutesy design with a dirtier horror kind of aesthetic mixed in there as well. All this leaves us with one big question though. Where are we now? The modern era has been a slow but steady return to form. While major game companies are still too afraid to take the big plunge, indie developers have been on the biggest tear, almost being able to match the hype for their games as there were in the golden era. The best examples to come from this were in the form of Hollow Knight, Snipperclips, Yooka-Laylee, Pizza Tower, Among Us, Anton Blast, and way more than I could count. While not gaining an insane amount of traction like some AAA developers, these games have managed to grow large fan bases online and have found a lot of spots in people's hearts. In terms of the big boys though, the two big franchises that stand out as Scrimblo Bimblo at the current moment are Astrobot and the toy-style Legend of Zelda games. With so many games that strive for realistic graphics and top-of-the-line acting to boot, Astrobot still came out winning Game of the Year in 2024, showing that no matter how much time passes, people still have that love for Scrimblo Bimblos. It's to the point that companies are starting to finally come back with these beloved mascots, whether it be remakes, sequels, or tie-ins elsewhere. Where will we go from here? Honestly, it's up in the air at the moment. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and companies are trying their best to bleed your wallets dry. Developers always have their own general philosophies for their consoles, such as Nintendo never really going for the realism route its rivals do, and judging by their current work, who's to say we don't have a Scrimblo Bimblo waiting for us on the next console? Who's to say Sony isn't against the idea of other little dudes like Astrobot to be made, or have others come back? There really isn't any telling thanks to the free range of creativity in the medium anymore. We just have so many different genres with so many different art styles. And honestly, that's great. But one thing's for sure. As long as there's a little dude with nothing but static in his head and a warm feeling in your heart, the world will be graced with one of the pinnacles of gaming. The Scrimblo Bimblo.